Today I'm going to do a little talk based on the Heart Sutra. And this is one that was a really beautiful part of my own path. When I went to a Zen center, the Zen Mountain Monastery in New York, they would recite this every day. It's part of their tradition. And when I first heard it, I had no idea what it meant. I had just a feeling about it. There was some mystery there. And I would listen to it every day, and we were doing a sesshin like this. And they have a beautiful phrase for this type of work that we're doing here. They call it gathering the heart-mind. Gathering the heart-mind. And this is the Heart Sutra. And it's the heart in Buddhism is referring to that mystery, that part of us that awakens, or not a part of us, but that which is already here, awake, aware. It's our true nature. So the heart it can be used synonymously as, you could say the self. Teachers like Ramana Maharshi, they talk about the self with a capital S. So that's the same thing, or a true nature, that which remains continuously in waking, dreaming, deep sleep, that which is ever present, which is not born, not destroyed. So, I'm going to talk a bit about the Heart Sutra. Well, first I'm going to read it, and then there's an important thing in it that's relevant for meditation. Actually, it's all relevant for meditation, but it talks about the 5 skandhas. The 5 skandhas, the skandhas are, the word skandha means something like aggregate or like a heap. So the 5 skandhas are the aggregates of mind, or you could say the processes of mind. And it's sort of a functional model for the mind. And it's out of any tradition. I've not come across anything like it. It's very useful for meditation because in the Heart Sutra, it says that by realizing all of these mechanisms of mind, or these aggregates, by realizing them to be empty of self, we become enlightened. We detach our sense of self from them. So, most of these processes of mind are unconscious, so it's by recognizing them, seeing what's in play, and becoming conscious of these aggregates, we can detach from them. So I'm going to read the Heart Sutra, and then I'll talk a little bit about these processes of mind. And we've already come in contact with or talked about some of them. So one of the skandhas is this part of the mind that is judging and has preferences. So the samskaras or the sankharas in Pali, these are the egoic preferences. So that's just one of the skandhas. Another skandha is when we're doing that vipassana body scan, the root level of sensation is one of the skandhas. The awareness of this sensory field, or whatever you want to call it, subtle sensation or inner energy. And that's Vedana, that's one of the skandhas as well. So we're going to tie a lot of the things we've talked about together in this teaching here. So there's a few Sanskrit words, and I'll just say what they mean as we go along. And I might interject a few points just for clarification purposes as well. So this is called the Maha Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. And that is the greatest ultimate wisdom Heart Sutra. So Prajna Paramita is the ultimate wisdom, or the wisdom of our true self. So this is the Heart Sutra, which is about the wisdom of our true nature. So it starts out Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. So this is the Bodhisattva of compassion, or an awakened being. An awakened being doing deep prajna paramita clearly saw the emptiness of all the 5 conditions, the 5 skandhas, thus completely relieving all misfortune and pain. So the awakened being practicing prajna paramita, so they're already awake, they're aware of their true nature, aware of the self. So practicing prajna paramita, you could say just practicing being aware, practicing, or just being aware. And so he's speaking to one of the monks, Shariputra. He says, "O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness, no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness, exactly form. Sensation, conception, discrimination, awareness are likewise like this." So these are the processes of the mind: sensation, conception, discrimination, and awareness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are forms of emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. So in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, conception, discrimination, awareness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, phenomena, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, and no end to ignorance, no old age and death, and no end to old age and death, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinguishing, no path, no wisdom, and no gain. No gain, and thus the Bodhisattva lives prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond deluded thoughts, this is nirvana. All past, present, and future Buddhas live prajna paramita and therefore attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, which means the embodiment of that perfect wisdom. Therefore, no prajna paramita is the great mantra, the vivid mantra, the the best mantra, the unsurpassable mantra. It completely clears all pain. This is the truth and not a lie. So set forth the Prajna Paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha, which means gone, gone, completely gone, absolutely gone. The awakened heart is. So when we read this, it's landing in a place that beyond the mind, or it's intended to land beyond the conditioned mind. It's pointing to this non-duality, where form is seen as emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. These paradoxes for the mind. There's no suffering, and yet there's no end to suffering. So this realization is realized when there is a cessation of identification with this false self, which is made up of the 5 skandhas. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the 5 skandhas. So the first one is rupa, which they don't usually talk much about. It's just form. There's this body or form. There's this sense that we are in this avatar. And on this body, there arises raw sensation. So this is sensation prior to any concept or prior to any judgment. So it's not sensation the way, usually when we talk about sensation, feeling good, feeling certain feelings are good or bad, but this is raw sensation. So you can imagine, I often use the mosquito example. So the mosquito, is buzzing around, but if I have no concept of it yet, I have no experience of it yet, so it's the first time I've experienced a mosquito, then it's just a vibration. It's just a vibration. It lands. There's just raw sensation there. There's no concept that this is a mosquito. There's no reaction. So this is Vedana, that raw vibration. So this is the root level of sensation that arises on the body, and this is a level that we can tune into. Quite often we're not tuned in on this level, so we can, through meditation, train ourselves to be attentive to this layer of our being. Usually we're in the thoughts already. We're reacting and living life through the thoughts. So this is something that we can learn to inhabit, this direct connection to the vibratory field. So the next skandha is sanya, which is, this is the formation of perception, or things come into being at this point. So this is where I tie this vibration, this sensation, into memory. So I have a previous memory that this is a mosquito. And at this point, I haven't labeled it as good or bad. This is where concepts come into being. So instead of just this field of vibration happening all around, at Sanya, the mind, there's this discrete process of the mind that is distinguishing things. You know, it's separating. This is where the mind is an incredible tool at separating things. That's really one of its main functions. It's always dividing. You know, so this is where those divisions come in, and the creation of things, and language, and memory. In each one of these skandhas, we can observe the function of it directly. These are actual processes that can be made completely conscious, and we can tune into each of these and drop them individually, which is quite interesting. And each kind of dropping of a particular skandha will create a certain state or a certain experience. So continuing with the mosquito example, you know, the mosquito lands, we've identified it, the mind labels it as mosquito, and then finally the samskaras are my preferences about that mosquito. So the past experiences, I know that there's some discomfort there. So there's a reactivity there. There's a judgment there that this is bad, or maybe some people like them and they're good, but probably not. And so these are essentially the main processes of the conditioned mind. We get these sensations, then the perception of things, and then the judgment of good or bad. And we can apply this to all phenomena that is arising in the sensory field. The entire external world is created by these 5 skandhas. They're even applicable when we are dreaming or in you know, higher worlds. It's still presenting as some phenomena that could be related to these 5 skandhas. So you know, as we evolve on the path, as we grow, you know, the inner spiritual mechanism evolves, and as Rudolf Steiner said, we grow the organs of higher perception, you know, but yet it all comes down to these aggregates of mind. So I've mentioned the first 4, and then the 5th skandha is vijnana, which is sometimes translated as consciousness, but it's sort of self-awareness or awareness of the other 4 skandhas. So we talked about that, the mind being like a camera. You know, the conditioned mind is like a camera. So the concentration, you know, moving that camera to look at things. You know, that camera will look at things. It looks at objects, examines concepts. So vijnana is still part of the mind. It's not consciousness in the big sense, or it's not awareness in the big sense. It's still a process of the mind. So one of the examples I use for that sometimes, this in psychology, this is called figure ground reversal, and it's a useful thing to point out what's happening. So this figure ground reversal represents duality, represents the dualistic mind. So you've probably all seen this. This is a vase. You know, you look at it one way and it's a vase. You look at it the other way and it's 2 faces. You know, so there's a flip when you look at this a certain way. You see the foreground, and then you flip it to see the background. And that's kind of like what happens with vijnana. Vijnana is imagine that it is these two faces, So this vase is the entire sensory field and all forms, all perceptions. The entire manifested world is the vase, And then there's the witness. These two faces are witnessing the vase. And this witness is still part of the mind. So in the Heart Sutra, it says, the Bodhisattva recognized all 5 skandhas to be empty of self. So even this witnessing part of the mind, we recognize that it is still part of the mind. It's still part of this duality. There's this split between all this stuff that's being observed and this observer. This is duality. This is the yin and yang of the world. Yeah. So so this witness, sometimes in our meditation practice, we recognize that we have this figure ground reversal. We become aware of the witness, but yet there's still the split. So it's still not the awakening. It's still not the becoming free of this duality. There's a collapse of this duality that happens. So it's important in our practice not to get stuck in that witness. We can sort of detach from all this changing phenomena, and the witness is very peaceful, compared to that. So we can hang out as the witness. There's less suffering, if we're not getting caught in that. But still, the witness is part of the mind, and it's all subject to change. And Ken Wilber had a great phrase. He said, "The witness is the last holdout of the ego." The witness is the last holdout of the ego. So who is aware of all of this? Who is aware of all of the 5 skandhas? So if you can directly experience that one, the one that is aware of the whole mass of the mind, all changing phenomena, even the witness. If we can observe, without using the mind, without evaluating, without analyzing, that awareness that we are it has 0 qualities. There's no job for that awareness. It doesn't do anything. It's just purely aware. And the analogy I sometimes use, I was just talking about it earlier today, is the analogy of a VR game. If anybody is, I think most people have experienced or have some idea what VR is about. So you put on the headset, and you appear in this game. You have a different avatar. And in that game, you know that you're just playing. You're playing this character in the VR world. So who are you in that VR game? Who are you when you put on that headset? There's a consciousness that is in there, even though the characters can be interchangeable. The games, the script is interchangeable, but that consciousness that is playing the game is always you. So when you take off that headset, you come into this world, this reality. It's the same thing. We're walking around in these avatars, but these avatars are interchangeable. They're exactly the same. So who are you that's aware of all of this changing phenomena in this avatar? It's that same consciousness that was there, taking in the game, it's taking in the big show here. So I think I'll leave it there. Yeah.
Just to say is, so there's a relationship between emptiness and form.
Not a relationship. So in the Heart Sutra, form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. So in non-duality, it's not, it's not two. So it's not one thing relating to another. It's more, the way I think of it is, with the mind, like it's pointing to direct experience of this non-dual state, which really has to be directly experienced. But to conceptualize it with the mind, I think of, in physics, like we know that this form, if I go into this form with a super duper electron microscope and keep going deeper and deeper, it's 99.99999, many nines, percent empty. It's empty space, and whatever that tiny little bit is that they haven't found out yet, it's just because they haven't found out that, every time they go deeper, it just opens up into more and more emptiness, unraveling illusion. So to me, that's even science confirms it, like literally form is emptiness, like on the most literal level. Yeah.
But there's something going on between emptiness and form.
Yeah, well, it's the mind. The mind creates that split. It creates the concept of the two, of that duality. So when that mind drops away, when we let go of the conceptual mechanism, there's a mechanism that's running in the mind. That sanya is the the creation of perception and concepts, so that's running, it's filtering, all of our language, we're filtering through that mechanism. So when that literally drops away, which is, in the Heart Sutra, like we realize it to be empty of self, so if my sense of I is no longer wrapped up in that, it can drop away. So then there's a different interfacing that happens. So it's a direct experience to life. So instead of seeing a tree, we look at a tree and we go, that's a tree, and we have a concept and a knowing in the mind. We've seen many trees. We know it's a pine or an oak. We have all these concepts. But when all that drops away, the past drops away, the filtering mechanism drops away, then there's this thing there. It's not even a thing. It's just a revelation. There's an aliveness that's that's there, and there can be a direct experience of that, which is.
That's what I'm trying to tease out, is that the senior is emptiness.
The what?
Like form arises out of emptiness.
Well,
and something happened there somewhere along the line where like form didn't decide to rise out of emptiness. Right? So it's just that there's something really
Yeah, yeah, like within the dualistic world, you know, there's like when you say form arose out of emptiness, you know, you're talking about time. You know, something happened in time, but what the sutra is pointing to is beyond time. It's the timeless. Yeah. Yeah.
So Krishnamurti talks about choiceless awareness, and that in choiceless awareness, there's right action. So whatever. So if you don't have all those filters,
Yeah.
you're aware, choicelessly aware.
Yeah.
The right action comes forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the way I like to describe that is, you know, it's our energy. You know, if it's going into all those 5 skandhas, you know, the operation of the ego, you know, then it's just choosing based on preferences and egoic wants. You know, it's egoic activity. But when the energy becomes free of that, you know, that energy is alive. You know, the energy is part of the Tao. You know, the great mass of energy that is, you know, oming the universe into being. So so when we align with that, you know, that's right action. Yeah. Yeah, so to me, that's the compass. You know, we feel into that energy. We align with that energy. Yeah.
Consciousness is experiencing everything.
It's the one taking in the show. Yeah, it's. Yeah. Yeah. It's just aware. Yeah. Yeah. So there's this whole world of changing form, you know, different worlds can come and go, but there's always a consciousness that remains experiencing all of it. You know, even when you were a little kid, there was an I amness or an awareness as a little kid. You know, and as a teenager, you know, right in this moment, there's that same I amness. It's just this sense that I exist, a sense of being, you know, and at the end of life, on the deathbed, it'll be the same I amness. You know, the body has gotten old, all these changes have happened, but I amness it just is. It's the same sense that I exist. I'm here. Yeah.
You said that Ramana Maharshi said he didn't come out of that place, of that. Is that what it means to be in this always having this always being like that without coming back to this 5th skandha, which is more like the witness awareness.
So for Ramana Maharshi, he was unique in his, like he really went all the way with this. So he, you know, the self, like when he says, you know, the self or the I no longer comes and goes. You know, he was abiding as the self continuously. So, you know, so sometimes we, you know, if you do a lot of meditation and self-inquiry, you can start to experience turiya, which is the presence of the true I am, you know, even in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. But then, you know, for me, on my path, I'm not at anywhere near where Ramana Maharshi is, or was. He abides, or was there permanently. Whereas for me, I get little runs of it, you know, I get a taste of it sometimes if I'm doing a lot of practice. But then I go back into life and I'm still doing stuff and creating movies and it sort of comes and goes at times, but it's usually in deep practice that it'll come. So the difference with Ramana Maharshi was he, like people have awakenings. People at these retreats or in self-inquiry, they'll have awakenings, but then they go back into life, and that awareness gets dimmed again. Whereas Ramana Maharshi was relentless. He was, when he awakened, he would not give it up. That's the difference between a great master and everybody else. He was relentless. He just, he would sit there, he would let maggots eat his body, before he would give up. So, the stories are incredible. He took it right to the edge. So, so that's it. So that's the level. If you want to be a Buddha, the Buddha went through similar stuff as well. Just incredible determination.
So it means that you have a taste of it, and you come back to this, but and you're nourished by this taste, by this profound understanding. Yeah, exactly. So so you'll, once you get a taste of, like once that flip has happened, absolutely that you're not this character. It's a game changer. It's Nirvikalpa Samadhi is considered to be the highest samadhi because it's when you're it's identical, like the state is identical to deep sleep. So the mind and body are dropped off, but yet that primordial awareness is aware, it's awake. So if there's no mind and body, there's nothing, there's no world, there's absolutely no phenomena, just like in deep sleep, but yet there's this unfathomable presence or continuity, then at that point absolutely that there's no death. Life and death are happening within this realm of form, but this consciousness is beyond that. It's like in the Heart Sutra, it's gone completely beyond. It's beyond this entire world of the 5 skandhas.
There's a death of the ego, isn't there?
Yeah, well, it's the dropping off of that ego. Yeah, different people mean different things by ego death. There's a letting go that happens in these retreats, a gradual kind of loosening and letting go and purification of the samskaras. That's all kind of a part of that ego death. But when we go to sleep every night, the mind and body drop off in deep sleep as well. There's no ego, there's no self-structure there. The only difference is when that primordial awareness is awake, then there's a continuity, there's a sense that you haven't gone anywhere during that deep sleep.
So is there a difference between a Satori or a Kensho and Nirvikalpa Samadhi?
Yeah, so I would say like a full Kensho is that. So so it's possible to have Kensho, to awaken to the true self in this waking state. So there's the flip of identification. We know who we are, but yet. If it's not a full Kensho, then you can go to sleep at night and you disappear, basically. You disappear in deep sleep. Whereas if it's a full Kensho, then there's that continuity through waking, dreaming, and deep sleep.
For a period of time, or would it like go out into the world again?
Yeah. So for my own experience, it's been temporary. So in Ramana Maharshi's experience, they call it Turiya Tita. So there's Turiya. It's you get a taste of that for a period of time, for whatever. But
Turiyatita is a permanent state, or Sahaja Samadhi is another name for it as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask one thing? So in that permanent state, so they can't function in regular world, physical world, isn't it?
So in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, where the mind is dropped off, yeah, there's no world, there's no phenomena, there's no senses, there's no body. It's like when you go to sleep at night. There's just everything is gone. But in Sahaja Samadhi, that the I am is present continuously through all the states. So waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. So you can totally live a life in that state, But when you're awake as that awareness, then there's a sense of you're watching the character. You're watching the character go about its life and doing things. So yeah, in that sense, like everything is available. You don't lose anything. Yeah.
Could I ask you a question? What about like Kundalini awakening, when you have like a full lightning and like the cosmic egg breaks and the crown chakra opens?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that experience, and how does that relate to like what awakening is?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Indian texts will talk about that as if like that is enlightenment, but
Yeah.
I've always been confused about what the relationship is.
Yeah. So to me, so when we have a kensho or an awakening, there's also, to some degree, an awakening of Kundalini as well. So that energy is released, and usually at that point on the path, there's an acceleration of everything. So an acceleration of the purification of samskaras. Everything really becomes more active. So when we purify the samskaras, then the energy, the Kundalini, will start to grow and evolve, and the chakras are activated and all of that. So in classical yoga, the enlightenment is when that energy flows freely from the root to the crown continuously and effortlessly, basically. Yeah.
So those tend to coincide, like a Kundalini activation and like a kensho experience?
So yeah, so the kensho is, anybody could have kensho. Anybody can awaken. You don't have to have fully developed Kundalini. Your Kundalini could be, in a dormant state or at first chakra, or you could be at crown chakra level and be awake. So usually, to me, so this is the way I would describe it. The awakening always happens in the now. There's nothing that needs to be developed through time. Whereas with the Kundalini and the chakras, there's a development process. There's an evolution that happens within the self-structure, and it's evolving in a way that makes this vessel able to house that awareness better.
It's more like coming into alignment with what the kensho is.
Yeah. Like if your energy is flowing from the root to the crown, then you're in a very permeable state. You're basically in a samadhi state, and that awareness is just shining through permanently. So whereas if that energy is not developed, then the self structure is just less permeable. Yeah, it's more dense. It's not as light or enlightened. Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll take a little break, and then we'll dive into meditation.